Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Packers defense is legit crushing the Commanders on Thursday night. Also, we get a rematch of last season's Super Bowl on Sunday afternoon. And Tennessee is looking to get the best of Georgia for the first time in a long time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Green Bay Packers defense has claimed its next victim. After shutting down the Lions in week 1, they did so again versus the Commanders on Thursday night. I went live after the game over on Locked On Packers to break down the win. This game, if you just look at the final score, is going to say 27-18. It was not anywhere near that close. In fact, the first time since 1995, the Packers have held their first two opponents to under 250 yards. This was a dominant defensive performance. And it really was a dominant offensive performance, 404 total yards, 6.4 yards per play. And that includes some give up, to end the first half, the Packers were averaging over 8 yards a play. They were getting whatever they wanted. And you can call it killer instinct. You can call it a lack of focus. You can call it a young team learning how, if you want to be maximally generous, how to be a championship caliber team. Call it whatever you want. This Packers team did not put the Commanders away when they had the chance. And oh boy, did they have chances. That's the thing. If you're Matt LaFleur, that's why I think this is the perfect coaching opportunity for Matt LaFleur. It is exactly what you want. You showed you are the best team in football, maybe. You just dominated the first time in modern history that a team has won since the short week stuff, has won back-to-back games. So 2 games in 5 days against playoff teams from the previous year. These are big-time wins. And yet, the Packers could have scored 40 points in this game without a problem. And so that, you know what that does? That allows Matt LaFleur to be in his bag all week. To say, hey, you guys played well. You beat that team. You should have annihilated that team. This could have been 40-14. It could have been that kind of game. And I'm not saying, look, the Commanders are a good team. But penalties were a killer. I understand the penalties were weak. A lot of really ticky-tack, real nonsense penalties. The one on John Fitzpatrick where they get the first down and then it totally scuttles a drive. They were going to put that game away. But very first drive, Jordan Love has the chance to get Dontavian Wicks down the seam for a touchdown. The ball is slightly overthrown. Later in that drive on 4th down, this is the kind of detail Matt LaFleur is going to talk about all season. I don't know who it was. It looked like he was yelling at Kingsley Enagbare. I don't know if it was Enagbare, but someone came out on the field thinking field goal. The Packers were going to go for it. Love wanted to go fast. They wanted to take their shot. I think they wanted to run the play they ultimately called, but they wanted to catch the Commanders off guard. And you have someone not paying attention. They come onto the field and the ref holds the game up. And you don't get to keep, you don't get the sneak attack that you wanted, and you don't get to keep the momentum going. Then Jordan Love babies the throw to Matthew Golden, who was going to have his first NFL touchdown if the throw was better. Later in that quarter, Jordan Love misses Matthew Golden on what would have been a 96-yard walk-in touchdown. Now, they end up scoring, but they had multiple opportunities here. Now, look, some of the defensive holding calls were total nonsense. The Nate Hobbs call, soft. There were a number of the Xavier McKinney call, soft. There were a number of those in the game. It did seem like the league had made a phone call and said, hey, can you guys make this a little closer than it would otherwise be. But the Packers allowed that. The defense was stellar. I don't have anything, and we'll talk plenty about the defense, but the defense was outstanding. This game was there for the Packers offense to take by the scruff of its neck. And I understand part of this is the offensive line. Darian Kennard, Anthony Belton, they rotated at right tackle. Jordan Morgan, I think the tape will show an up and down game for him at left guard. This is a pretty good Commanders front. It's not a dominant Commanders front by any means, but they were pretty good in the run game. The Commanders were. The Packers could not run the ball in this game, despite the fact that the Packers tried to pull out some interesting stuff. Now, they were able to get the Savion Williams stuff worked really well. The Matthew Golden stuff worked really well. But none of the Josh Jacobs stuff worked, except the one time he got into the end zone. So the details here were not quite up to the standard. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say the offense was bad. You can't put up 400 yards of offense in a game and be bad. 27 points, you're not bad. But you want them to keep the throttle down. You can stay up to date all year on the Green Bay Packers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Packers on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, could Kansas City be even more outmatched this time against the Eagles? Before we get to that, the Browns are doing the last thing they should be doing right now, talking smack. The NFL season is finally here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The Browns and Ravens don't need much help drumming up intensity, but Grant Delpit went ahead and added some spice anyway. Nearly a year after Delpit flattened Henry and broke out the too small celebration, the Cleveland safety doubled down this week, saying it's not hard to bring down the 252-pound back. Henry didn't let that slide, answering that we'll simply see on Sunday. Throw in Jerry Jeudy's dismissing Baltimore's star-studded secondary as no challenge, and you've got all the bulletin board material you could ever want. If words really do add fuel to the fire, the Huntington Bank Field might just be in flames on Sunday. Over on the diamond, the Blue Jays shut down the Astros.
It's hard to predict what the Houston Astros offense will do one game to another game. They win yesterday, but they lost today. They got shut out basically by Kevin Gossman, only got 2 hits in a game. Unfortunately, the Astros pitching wasn't up to par. So now the Mariners, they are playing a little bit later tonight. But if they win, they can tie the Houston Astros for first in the AL West. So the Astros have let the Mariners back in to the fight. And so now they have to play the Braves on Friday. The starter for that game is TBA, likely going to be JP France or somebody else. So the Houston Astros have put themselves in a situation where their backs are against the wall. We'll talk about this and more on tonight's Locked On Astros podcast.
And the NCAA has dropped another bombshell in the ever-growing sports gambling saga. 13 men's college basketball players from 6 schools, including Eastern Michigan, Temple, and Arizona State, are under investigation for betting against their own teams, manipulating games, or leaking inside information to third parties. None of the players are still on campus, but the cases tie back to the same gambling ring that already rocked the NBA with Jonte Porter's scandal. NCAA President Charlie Baker says legalized betting is here to stay, but if schools and leagues don't get more say in policing things like prop bets, integrity risks will only keep growing. It's madness in September, just not the kind anyone would want. The Chiefs got rocked in the Super Bowl earlier this year, and now they've got a chance for revenge on Sunday, or at least a modicum of it. Locked On Chiefs host Chris Clark and Ryan Tracy sat down with Locked On Eagles host Louis DiBiase to preview the Super Bowl rematch in KC.
A clean game with no injuries, please. Can I ask that? That's what I want. I want a clean game. I want to see I'd love to see a high scoring game in this one. I don't know that we'll see it. I think that both these teams showed inconsistency at times on offense last week. Obviously, Kansas City for sure did. But I thought even watching the Eagles play, they weren't consistent the way that you would expect a Super Bowl winner to be in the first week of the season, especially against a rival like the Dallas Cowboys. But you look at this game and you look how it's going to play out. And I agree with you, Louis. This is one of those situations where if he wins again, if Hurts finds a way to beat Mahomes again, you have to start wondering where are you going to put him in this conversation. Now, you can make an argument that the supporting casts are way different. Hurts has a little bit more talent around him. I don't think that there's going to be an argument that you can't really say that that's not true, but you look at this game and it's just one of those things where Kansas City is now in a situation where they are 0-1 going into play the Eagles. If they go to 0-2, that does become a problem, and the pressure is going to be squarely on Patrick Mahomes to make this a game where he says pretty much over my dead body, and are we going to lose 2 in a row?
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that if Jalen beats Mahomes, suddenly he's ahead of Mahomes. Like, I think Patrick still is number one in the NFL. Like, undoubtedly so. Over still Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. But if Jalen goes out and again outduels the number one guy in the league, as he's done multiple times, even when he doesn't beat him, like he's right there with him, that should matter more in these conversations about where quarterbacks are ranked. And I just don't like people are still putting, even in our Locked On NFL Top 100 list this offseason, people are putting Jaden Daniels ahead of Jalen Hurts and Matt Stafford. And I think, Chris, you nailed it. Like, the offense last week was definitely inconsistent. A.J. Brown only got 1 target, and it was the last drive of the game. Devontae Smith only had 16 receiving yards. I thought Dallas did a really good job stopping Saquon Barkley in the second half. He had under 70 rushing yards, which was a rarity last year. The only real positive, consistent part of that offense last week was Jalen Hurts carrying the football team, making plays outside of structure with his legs when nobody was open. That's how the first 2 rushing touchdowns happened. It was kind of a mini first half shootout, and yet I still don't think he got enough credit because he only threw for 153 passing yards. So I would love to see him go out there this week and put up the numbers in a win on the road, because, again, I just think that'll continue to help the narrative that he is an elite quarterback. So I think there's a lot riding on this for Hurts from an individual perspective. But like you guys, for the Chiefs, like, this is rare territory. I mean, going down 0-2 to start a season is not like the Mahomes-Reed era.
No, it's definitely not, and it'd be something that I think would be a precedent you don't want to set, but you got to live off of. That's got to push you forward. And I like this rivalry between the two quarterbacks because it continues to push. I feel like maybe more so than some other times Mahomes has been on stage at a pre-Super Bowl media event. I feel like there's a lot of camaraderie and mutual respect there, and I think that
totally agree.
Fed upon. But the thing for me, I actually feel the opposite in terms of performance. I want Jalen to put up 250 yards. That's what I'm looking for. Because if he does that, it means he didn't run it in 4 times and he's not tearing them up on the ground. And for me, that's what I think is the driver that moves the offense against this Chiefs defense. If they can keep him to the fact that they're going to give up pass yards and they can keep him in particular out of the end zone, it means he's got to work as a true pocket quarterback. And I think that's the way that Mahomes can actually stay out front a little bit, maybe put up a few more points. We'll see what that defensive front looks like.
Yeah, and I will say this, when you start looking at how this is going to play out, I agree with you completely that it is a scenario where if Hurts comes out and plays, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy, but if he comes out and plays and wins with his legs, it doesn't say the same thing as him coming out and playing like a normal quarterback and coming out and throwing for 250, 300 yards. I understand it's not the game of football today. You're going to use your legs as a quarterback. I get that. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but it's a different conversation, whether it's fair or not.
Can I ask why? Production to me is production. I think Lamar Jackson, we don't knock his mobile production, or Josh Allen, but for some reason with Jalen, the rushing, even Cam Newton back in the day wasn't putting up 4,000 plus passing yards every year, but everybody said he was an elite player. I'm just curious why the rules for Jalen are different than other quarterbacks.
I'm not saying that they should be. I'm simply stating that that's the way it seems to be. Because
no, I agree with you. I was genuinely asking. I'm curious why people form it that way.
I wish I had a great answer for you, because the reality is you're right. Production's what matters. Wins matter. As much as people say that QB wins doesn't matter, that's what people are judged on. It may not be fair, but that becomes reality as you look at who is the most winning quarterback of all time, that's who you think is the most successful quarterback. It doesn't necessarily matter if he threw for 5,000 yards or not.
Yeah, and real quick to just kind of wrap things up for at least my perspective on the quarterback thing, I totally agree with you. Like if a player was clearly a product of his system and was not elevating a football team, I would call them a system quarterback. Like Brock Purdy is somebody that I kind of put in that tier, whereas Jalen Hurts I don't think belongs there because although you're right about how people shape his rushing production versus passing, he is still elevating the team and carrying them through his legs. Like last week, I think it's a foregone conclusion if you watch that game, they won because of Jalen Hurts. Was it through the air? No, but you still won because of your quarterback, so why does it matter how in the modern day NFL? I just think it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's a fascinating matchup. I think Pat Mahomes does a lot of things like that are similar to what Jalen does great that Mahomes gets credit for and Jalen gets knocked for. So I don't know. I just clearly, as you guys can tell, I have very passionate feelings about this, but I just think quarterback narratives and dialogue right now, it's just the rules are always different and it's very fascinating to me.
Stay up to date all year on the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Chiefs and of course Locked On Eagles on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Georgia and Tennessee should be absolute cinema on Saturday. The Georgia Bulldogs have manhandled the Tennessee Volunteers for 8 consecutive seasons. Drake told Jesse Holley and Coach Gary Patterson discussed how things could look a little different this weekend in Knoxville on Fire TV's college football kickoff show.
Clint, are the Bulldogs as good as they were a couple of seasons ago when they won the national championship? Can they get back to glory? And does a win against Tennessee prove that?
I think this game will prove one thing very, very dramatically, and that's the defense. Kirby Smart has said defense in the trenches, tackling is key. If you look back at the national championship winners the last 5 years, top 5 defense. 21-22, we didn't know those names before they first round grades. These no-name dogs on defense are that exact same team. C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, Chris Cole, if you don't know that name, know it now. That guy's a terror off the outside. Coming for quarterback sacks and get in the backfield. Offensively, I think we're going to be just fine. Running the football with a 3-headed attack against Tennessee, we're going to dominate and get back to that status, yes.
Oh, what's that, Eric Kane? Did you say that's a bunch of bull malarkey? Was that? Can you say it with your chest? Anything that Clint said that stands out as very untrue?
I mean, Georgia's won 8 straight in this series, so it's kind of hard to argue. But no, I mean, I think Georgia's a good team. There's still a lot that I don't know about Georgia. I think there's some you don't know about Tennessee. It's early in the season. It's kind of weird for these two teams to be meeting so early. But, Georgia's going to be a tremendous challenge on the defensive end, always having good linebackers. C.J. Allen's been there forever. He mentioned Chris Cole. They brought interior pressure from those backers in years past. And, Nico Iamaleava was sacked 6 times in this matchup last year. Tennessee was able to run the football efficiently, but couldn't do anything through the air. So can Tennessee get after the opposing quarterback early, rattle him in his first SEC start, and, of course, get things going with a new quarterback in their own right, Joey Aguilar, behind the home crowd? We'll see. That line's really, really close, and should be a good one.
Clint, this reminds me vaguely of when Tennessee knocked off Alabama at home a couple of years ago, and it felt like the monkey off your back. Another night game, or make it afternoon game for this one in Knoxville. Makes it a little bit different, though. Do you feel that almost je ne sais quoi of when Tennessee knocked off the Crimson Tide?
I think Tennessee had a much better team at that point matchup-wise against Alabama. We see a couple of defensive backs who have played well in the first 2 weeks for Tennessee, but Redmond's going to get tested. We saw last week when Gunnar Stockton saw 6-7-yard cushion, he went to the screen, got in the hands of Zachariah Branch, who's quicker than quick, and he's going to get up the field. So I do think matchup-wise it's a little bit different. Tennessee certainly hopes it is that feel, and this is going to be a raucous environment. First start on the road, Gunnar Stockton, the SEC. It's going to come down to, can the offensive line protect him? And this just in, Tennessee didn't lose a great defense. They still have very, very, very good up front 7 pieces to pressure that banged up, hurt offensive line.
Yeah, Kane, Will, and this one with you. If Tennessee is going to win it, what's the one X factor that the nation's not talking about?
Yeah, I think when you, and I talked to Clint about this earlier this week, Kirby Smart does such a great job defensively. He's a defensive-minded coach, defensive backs. Those corners, man, in these matchups, and 4 years under Josh Heupel, the corners for Georgia have just, they whipped Tennessee's receivers. Press man coverage, can't get off the line of scrimmage. I'm looking at that matchup. Of course, you got to protect the quarterback first and foremost to have an opportunity, but can Tennessee's wide receivers get off those press man coverages, get down the field, go make a play? Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, Chris Brazzell. I'm interested in seeing that because the last 4 matchups, it's like Tennessee really didn't have a chance to even have a chunk play because they were just getting beat the line of scrimmage. So I think that's something that a lot of people might not be looking for, but it's been pretty dominant in Georgia's favor these first couple of matchups.
And finally, Aaron Judge is rewriting the Yankees history books. 2 days after passing Yogi Berra, the captain belted 2 more home runs Thursday night to tie Joe DiMaggio for 4th on the club's all-time list with 361. Judge has now reached 45 homers in a season for the 4th time, putting him in company with Lou Gehrig, but still chasing Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle. Not a bad night for the Bronx Bombers' biggest bat. And if you're keeping track, that's 273 different pitchers who've now learned the hard way what it feels like to face Aaron Judge. All rise. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, can the Chiefs put up a fight versus the Eagles? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.